Welcome to the Sustainability Circuit Show. We'll be discussing where business meets responsibility. Join me as I speak to industry leaders across Kenya about their personal journeys and how sustainability became part of their company's strategy. Stay tuned for these conversations. We'll be highlighting real impact, what practical solutions and the value for businesses when it comes to sustainability. Let's begin the conversations. I'm your host today, Jane Achieng. I am joined by a very interesting gentleman. At least we're having gents grace the show, and he'll be representing the manufacturing sector, and it'd be interesting to hear what intersection of sustainability and manufacturing is. However, I'm going to let him introduce himself. So welcome very much, Oscar. Please introduce yourself. Tell us a bit about your background and what you do professionally.
Thank you, Jane. As you have said graciously, I'm Oscar Obonyo. I'm presently the Environment and Sustainability Manager for HACO Industries. And sustainability is something I don't just approach as a profession. It's my way of life because I think since the onset of my career, that's what I have been undertaking in one way or the other. So apart from doing sustainability professionally at HACO Industries, I also play the guitar. I'm a musician. If you see me in your screens soon enough, give the support.
We definitely will take that. You're the first person that I've interviewed so far that for them this was always the journey, or rather this was always the path. So perhaps you can give us a bit of context towards your professional journey. How has that looked like? Where did you start? How did it progress to the current role that you're in? Just set the scene.
So I was in that space inadvertently because by training I am an agriculturalist. So I studied BSc in Management of Agroecosystems and Environment. So when I was in school, this was not really a clear-cut course because you wouldn't tell what space you'd get into after your studies. And a lot of the time, we thought we'd all end up being farmers or farm managers somewhere, and that was just about it. But the course was designed to create environmentalists in the agricultural space. But I think by design, Kenya was not open to that particular role. So after school, I again had an additional professional training in environmental impact assessment and audits. So basically, that's where my journey began. So I was an impact assessment and audit specialist for quite a period of time. And I got to traverse sectors, the agricultural space, the renewable energy space, the wash space, and then more recently, the infrastructural space. So that's where I was for a majority of my professional life. So when you're looking at impact assessment, these are activities that happen before projects are implemented. So I used to say I was an environmentalist for compliance. All right. And the concept of sustainability did not come up until I now got into the implementation phase of these projects. So basically, when the projects are running, you have to make sure that they are remaining in tandem with their environmental and social obligations so that they cause no harm. But then it became a bit more prominent when I began working in projects that are donor funded. So DFIs usually have specific criteria for how you should approach environmental and social safeguards issues. And there was a World Bank project I was working on at a stretch in Turkana. And for the first time, we began to encounter real social challenges that are tied to infrastructure. And the project, yes, might be good, but you find that the community was more invested in other things aside from the road.
Infrastructure and the road.
Absolutely. So there were prevailing socioeconomic challenges, there were prevailing cultural conditions that the project needed to have been adjusted to those. And therefore we got off to a rough patch. And what came out was the need for continuous stakeholder engagement, especially with the community, so that you get to find that harmony between the project and the community. Yeah, long story short, we hacked it, and it goes into the books as one of the most successful donor projects ever funded in Kenya.
Okay, congratulations.
Thank you. So at that particular point, I started looking at this entire thing differently, because this is not just compliance. There is a bit more, there's something more that comes to it. Community ownership of the project in order to ensure success. That is an aspect of social sustainability. But that is not how it rang into my head.
In your head.
So one night, after watching a horror movie, and then so I can't sleep, and I decide, okay, let me just scroll and find out what are the prevailing current affairs, what's trending, what's not. And then I come across an article on sustainability, world sustainability, and I try and understand more what this is, because they are talking a bit more or less about what I do, but in a different light.
Terminology.
Yeah, and then I get to understand that there are a series of challenges that I have not even begun looking at. And I get more interested. What is sustainability? And I keep putting in questions. As an environmentalist, can I also be a sustainability specialist? They say, oh, in fact, environmentalists, you cover a huge chunk of that role. And then the concept of ESG now then comes. And now I am looking at sustainability not only from a project perspective, but from generally a business perspective, an economic perspective, global perspective, and I can see the way the world is moving, and the challenges that the world is experiencing, commitments that are being made by governments. So upon this research, I again stumble into a report by WWF called the Living Planet report, the Living World report. And it has some very interesting facts. At that particular time in 2020, 2019, 2020, thereabout, it was indicating that the Earth was operating at, we were operating at 50% above Earth's biocapacity. That means that we are operating in 1.5 Earths in one Earth. So we are depleting resources 1.5 times more
faster
than the Earth can actually regenerate. And I look at this trend because the report covers the periods between 1970, I think it's 1970, all the way to 2020. So we're looking at around a period of 50 years. And the report is indicating that biodiversity has dropped 70%. Other natural resources have declined 70% from that particular period. And all these things are being attributed to irresponsible human consumption patterns. And I said, okay, this has now unlocked a whole new space that I can begin to explore. So I started progressing my journey in infrastructure while now introducing the sustainability angle. Are we meeting our environmental impact, our social impact? And of course, the bottom line for the project, it has to remain profitable. It has to remain economically viable. So that's what I would approach. If a project has its completion timeline, and I feel that there are aspects that need to be introduced, like for example, it's a road, and we want to go a step further and make this a carbon neutral road. So I will pitch in those perspectives. And fast forward now from the infrastructural sector, I quickly joined FMCG. And that is where I am presently.
Okay. This is quite a bit of context and journey. You bring out nuances to most people that are in an environmental background capacity, whether it's environmental science, whether it's engineering, whether it's guys in the agriculture or biodiversity space, is that the transition between the knowledge, the core fundamentals that we have, and societal problems, and then business imperative. I think often we don't bring that both together until you go to the ground. Like you said, I think every guest that has come has said how stakeholder engagement is almost, you cannot do this world of ours without engaging your stakeholders.
Absolutely.
And I like how you bring those elements of, you have businesses that want to do XYZ. You have communities where they feel like those goals are misaligned to what's important to them. And then we have best practice for conserving the environment. I think that is the best journey to summarize what anyone who's working in sustainability would come into that space and do. You've really set the scene quite extensively. Allow me to progress to now in manufacturing, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You've gotten into that space, and as you've said, previously you were dealing with compliance. Anyone that's gone through the EIA process know this is heavy compliance. But now you're seeing that we're not just making decisions about compliance, we're making decisions about design, we're making decisions about operations, we're making decisions about where we commit money to.
Yeah.
From HACO's perspective as a manufacturer, what has that journey looked like?
Good. So we have now shifted from being an environmentalist for compliance. Mm-hmm. Now it's an environmentalist for impact. Mm-hmm. And we get into the FMCG space. Of course, the subtleties of how business operates there is a bit different from projects, but the underlying ESG factors all the same. So now we are in a product company, and we are dealing with a whole host of individuals. There is the supply chain, because you're now actively interacting with the raw material development and securing processes and how you source, and then it comes up all the way to product formulation, and then there are processes for that also. And then you come up all the way to how you brand and how you label the product, how you prepare it, how you package it, how you store it, how you transport it to trade, and how it reaches the consumer. And then once the consumer uses that product, there is also feedback. After they have used, there is waste there, and the waste is still attached to your brand, and then how that waste again is managed. So sustainability in the FMCG space became a bit broader. Mm. So I'm still in compliance, of course, but then when we're now talking about sustainability is what it is that you do beyond compliance. Because compliance, you just need to tick the checklist for the frameworks that have been provided either by the government or the overarching legislative frameworks that are there. That's compliance once you check. Sustainability will behoove you to go above those
compliance checks.
So for the FMCG business, again, you now want to start looking at what's material for the business. You just can't go saving the planet. I mean, you can't do everything. It has to be aligned to your core business, and it also has to reflect the kind of impact, especially the negative impacts that you're having on your environment and your communities, and then how it is that you can remedy that or avoid it altogether. Mm-hmm. So when I joined HACO was actively transitioning into a triple bottom line business. That was meaning that apart from the primary desire to make profit, there was also the high need to generate positive social and environmental impact. And in this journey, of course, we also had strong support from the Global Compact Network, Kenya, which is basically I think it's the biggest social sustainability initiatives for businesses.
For businesses to make their commitments to.
Absolutely. And so how this enables us to approach our environmental and social impact is by attaching your business operations to specific SDGs. Mm-hmm. Okay, so for HACO, we were at SDG 8. SDG 8 is economic growth and decent work. And then SDG 12, responsible production and consumption. And then finally SDG 17, partnership for the goals. And these SDGs were determined because HACO was at a transitionary point in 2018 because we were undergoing a series of demergers. So it was a demerger from Tiger Brands, which is a South African company. It was another demerger from BIC, which is a French company. And so HACO was beginning to look at business in a different way, bring new product into the market. It's like growing from scratch. It's like an SME starting up. And the vision of the company, as was articulated by our MD, Marianne Musangi, was that she wanted to build a Pan-African business. So this business was looking to generate high-quality natural products for Africa, and that would mean that right from the supply chain, we would prioritize Africa to give us those particular raw materials, try and impact livelihoods of farmers, especially vulnerable women groups that are into the agribusiness space. Once you uplift those livelihoods, make the research and development process again fully African to understand the African needs.
I'm going to ask a follow-up question.
All right.
When we say Pan-African, I'm sure there are probably viewers at home who are saying, no, washeni kutupima, right?
Yes.
But in my head, I'm wondering, when we say Pan-African, what exactly does that refer to? Because again, when we use those terminologies, again, we are accused as sustainability people to have a lot of terminologies.
Absolutely.
Which means most people never really understand what we're saying. When we say Pan-African, meaning you want to center a business in the African context.
Absolutely.
How does that look like from an operation point of view, from a strategy point of view, from a financing point of view?
So you have to understand that when we're talking about Pan-Africanism, is understanding Africa right from the colonial period, because we had all these boundaries and delineations that were set during the scramble and partition for Africa. And so post-independence, one challenge is that Africa tends to align its values presently strongly with the nation.
To the colonizer.
Yeah, exactly. So if you are a protectorate of a certain nation, you find that most of your modern values are shifted, or your thinking is shifted towards that particular country. So Pan-Africanism, is not trying to
reinvent the wheel.
It's not reinventing the wheel. Of course, we are not trying to bring us to a pre-colonial Africa. We're just trying to say that in the context of socioeconomics, culture, we're just trying to ease in those boundaries and make sure that Africa can come together and collaborate to prepare technology that is Africa-centric, products that are Africa-centric, and if in a particular geographical regional space that cannot add any value to the kind of valuable natural resources that I have, there could be a country in Africa that has that capacity. So I can value add my material somewhere in Africa. So it's building value for each other. So that means that if I can't find it at home, I'll find it at a neighbor's home, but it has to be in a context that is developing us all. So Pan-Africanism will help us, perhaps once we are getting to eradicate those boundaries, it helps seamless trade amongst us, seamless connectivity. You'll find that you have familiar or transport networks that blend with each other, communication networks that blend with each other, roles and even legislative frameworks that are a bit balanced and would allow someone from Kenya maybe to be able to carry out their skills in a not so differentiated way in South Africa, in Ghana, Nigeria. So it basically brings us together.
This is quite the vision, I must say. You paint for us a picture of a company that's saying we have a clean slate and we want to write that story for our people, and not just for our people, also for our planet. This must have come with some level of challenges and opportunities. If you could highlight one or two, and what were the key opportunities that you saw, or rather that you have been seeing in this journey? Absolutely.
So if I'm talking about a demerger, of course, we are losing a huge chunk of the business. And one of the most significant impacts was on employment. Again, employment opportunities, because there are roles that were there, they now cannot be there. I mean, you have lost around 70 or 75% of the business. Now you have to start from there. So the biggest challenge was retaining the workforce, and a lot of concessions were made in terms of trying to regularize the pay structure while you're trying to build business. Of course, there would naturally be the issue of you not being able to make a strong bottom line. Of course, your profits are going to be hard hit. And now, because a chunk of your portfolio products are gone, you have to start making new ones. And that requires a lot of investment, a lot of patient investment, because when you are expanding your product portfolio, on the other side, you're still not generating revenue. You're now beginning to create new relationships with suppliers, new relationships with the market, and you have to work with the constrained budget that you have. And that was significantly challenging. The employees at that particular time understood this transition, and a lot of them agreed to make concessions when it came to their pays. So we ended up retaining jobs instead of just throwing them out while starting from scratch. Now, from the business perspective, of course, there is this new vision to become Pan-African. So you have to make changes in your operations. You have to invest in new equipment because you are expanding.
Building a new product line.
Exactly.
Training a new staff.
Exactly. Yeah. And then you're also bringing in new talent. And at the same time, ESG does not work in favor of a particular pillar, because right now you are working towards your profit to solidify, but you'll not say, let me make my profit, and then once I'm stable, I'll now
come back to
check my environmental and social impact. It doesn't work like that. So for HACO, of course, we did set up again a new factory, did a lot of investments in new equipment for our products and our primary product packaging. And a new factory came up. So there are material things that you look at in manufacturing. And number one will be the issue of waste. Of course, if you're expanding your portfolio and your inventory, then that means your waste also increases significantly. And you have to deal with that. If you're expanding your inventory and portfolio again, there is increased consumption of energy, and you have to deal with that. There is increased consumption of natural resources, and any manner of resource that will be needed to go as an input into your processes will increase exponentially. And therefore you have to deal with that.
To mitigate.
So
solutions.
Those challenges sprang up, but because there was an idea that was grounded on driving a sustainable business, then something came up. So we have this initiative called the Chasing Zero Initiative. So the Chasing Zero Initiative was meant to build a significant fraction of our sustainability goals from the factory, and then from the factory all the way out into the community. So Chasing Zero basically is a focus on three aspects. Number one is zero waste, number two is zero harm, and then number three is net zero. So when the new factory came up, of course, when you're manufacturing the primary product, our product bottles are plastic. And so there's new machines that have been brought in to manufacture those plastics. When you are in a plastic factory, there is always that waste that is generated by that molding machine, either in terms of what we call offcuts or sprues, or the bottle does not meet quality, so it cannot package product. Naturally, you would throw those plastics away, or if we're talking about compliance, the law will require you to obtain a NEMA licensed waste handler in the faith that they have been audited by the state agency, and therefore they know that this person is going to dispose this waste properly. If you do that, you are compliant. But that does not necessarily mean that it's a sustainable practice. So the first approach we gave to it was to buy what we call grinders for our plastic manufacturing machines.
To get pellets out of these sub-products.
Exactly. So when the waste is generated, you just feed it directly into the grinder, and then it comes from the other side as a flake of that plastic. Now, in that format, you can still now feed it as a raw material into your machine. So it's
closing that circular loop.
Exactly.
Ensuring zero waste, nothing is going to waste.
Absolutely. So now at factory level, when the bottle is leaving the factory, around 19 to 21% of it is recycled material. But when you look at the amount of plastic wastes that we are recycling through this program, it's 19 tons a month. So I look at it as 19 tons of plastic waste that we have offset from either the landfills or the waterways. So there is, of course, plastic wastes that cannot be recycled by us. They're the flexes and all that, or those that do not directly inform the constitution of our packaging material. So now SDG 17 comes in. We're looking for a responsible partner who would help turn that plastic waste into a valuable material. Yeah, so we encountered an innovator called Pro Green Innovations. Basically, he's a waste to energy converter of plastics and biomass waste. And he converts it so well and refines it out of heavy sulfur and heavy carbon. It comes out as very clean fuel, which is usable in generators, in boilers, and even in the fleet.
Okay.
So our partnership with him was that he would be taking waste from our processes that we cannot recycle and then converting them into fuel, and then we are purchasing back that fuel into our manufacturing processes. Yeah.
To kind of build on those opportunities from a data perspective, have there been any opportunities to kind of streamline how data management is being done, given that these are very many processes that you're trying to manage, water relations, waste relations around it, and just making sure you have data that makes you have informed decisions?
Of course, not that there were. There presently is an opportunity for that. So the journey, of course, was not a one-day thing. It involved a lot of trials and errors until we finally got it. And for any person who begins to account, of course, your primary tool is usually an Excel sheet.
Yeah.
And you want to play with formulas until you get
colors,
everything.
rows, you want to do your whole thing.
Absolutely. Very colorful spreadsheet, and now you're easily able to pick data from one point to the other. But the challenge with having a large inventory as a business is your data load is also quite high. Because now we are not only looking at data from waste, we're also looking at data from our water consumption, energy consumption. We're looking at data on our emissions, and they keep growing as the business keeps growing. So at some point, using an Excel sheet, of course, it's still effective, but it's tedious.
Yeah.
So that now necessitates the need for a platform that can easily harmonize that data. Of course, once you have hacked the process of collection, now you will need one that can easily harmonize, and interpret that data to a point that it can quickly generate a report for you, so that you don't waste a lot of time trying to
clean your data, manage it,
exactly,
and the likes. I hear you on that. Again, as part of this initiative that we've been doing, is a product of ours on data management, that's EcoLoop. And the goal has been to understand all these different sectors have different data needs and different areas of collecting those data and manipulating it for different outputs. So in our experience dealing with clients in the manufacturing space, especially clients that are in plastic packaging or just any product-based manufacturer, is you realize the level of data is quite high, and the frequency of making decisions with that data is also something you need to interact with on a daily basis.
Absolutely.
So if we have electricity shutdowns, we're asking ourselves, what is our current load? Where can we offset some of this? So it's been an interesting journey formulating those for clients on how to do data management. For some of our clients, the approach we've taken is on disclosures. My question is, since we're kind of coming to the close of our conversation, is what has been the approach for disclosures? How have you, as HACO, communicated this information that you're doing to your stakeholders? Have there been any sustainability reports that you've worked towards, or things of that nature?
So we have a number of platforms through which we communicate. Right now, strongly, we are communicating these disclosures through a B2C forum and B2B forum. So we have a very advanced participation in these social and networking events. Of course, there are reports that we produce. I wouldn't label them as sustainability reports, but even our financial reports, they usually capture aspects of our socially responsible investments, our initiatives around sustainabilities and the kind of impacts that they're making, and how we intend to scale them. Now, in understanding that we are not a public interest entity, we will say that we are still not yet at the point where we've been mandated to undertake these public disclosures. However, we have already begun that journey of preparing our sustainability reports, and we want to streamline and then mainstream it. So soon enough, we should be there.
Definitely looking forward to the launch. Send us and the crew here.
I will. I'll send out invitations.
We'll definitely join. So, Oscar, we've come to the end of this conversation. It's been quite insightful. Like, I heavily was just listening throughout this episode. So, thank you very much for coming to our set.
Thank you.
We just have one parting shot.
All right.
If you were to go back 10 years ago to young Oscar, what is that advice that you would give him from a career perspective?
Don't stress it. Everything works for good. At some point, I thought I was going to be a prophet. And at campus level, I did not know what I was going to be.
Please, you know, prophet conversations are very tricky because Shakahola is not so long ago.
Absolutely. So at the end of the day, things always find ways to balance themselves in lives. I think as human beings, everyone has a responsibility to play. And over and above corporate, if you're able to take the conversation on sustainability and ESG to your personal lifestyle, make it your day-to-day living manual, then we should be able to collectively make the world a better place.
Wow. Oscar, thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
For coming to the show. We have come to the end of this episode here at the Sustainability Roundtable Show. It's been quite insightful listening to the work that's going on in the manufacturing space. I have been your host, Jane Achieng. And until next time, please remember to subscribe and follow our social media handles for more of this content. It's goodbye from us.